Hello, fellow Green School friends. I am here with Rose, and we are here to talk to you guys about ecophobia and biophilia in the classroom.
We're going to do the reflective practice video, and the three prompts we'll be talking about include which concepts covered resonated with you the most and why. What practical solutions could you apply to help integrate this concept into your environment? And who may support this transition? How can you create a compelling reason to cause this change?
The first concept that resonated with us the most as educators were the stages of environmental readiness. So, as teachers, we have the best intentions when trying to instill in our students a love for the environment and a motivation to be change makers that work to save it. However, kids need the opportunity to love nature before they can have the capacity to change or save it. So, what we learned is that we were asking kids to connect with nature and to save it based on abstract connections to real world problems, which can lead to anxiety and a sense of helplessness about how to save our planet. So, when kids are faced with a sense of helplessness, they can often pull away from what it is that's causing them anxiety, pain, or discomfort. So, one of the most interesting things we learned was that ages 3 through 7 learn most about their environment by finding their animal allies and developing empathy with the animals around them. Students aged 8 through 10 learn from exploring the local landscapes around their school or even their home. So, looking at rivers, lakes, ponds, trees, grass, flowers, and things like that.
Students ages 11 through 13 can then start thinking about environmental action in their local community and within the school. And students ages 14 through 15 can then are at the developmentally appropriate stage to start thinking about social action within their neighborhoods and their local communities. So prompt 2 we'll be talking about includes what practical solutions could you apply to help integrate this concept into your environment? The first thing we'd like to do is share the Beyond Ecophobia article by David Sobel. And we would share that with our colleagues and also introduce our colleagues to the Stages of Environmental Readiness vertical alignment stages to make sure everyone understands the appropriate progression that's developmentally appropriate to their students.
And finally, we would make sure that we're designing learning opportunities for students that are developmentally appropriate based on the stages of environmental readiness. So, with that being said, you might wonder, what does biophilia look like? So, one of the things that we could do in order to avoid such a situation as kids having ecophobia is allowing them to get out into their local community and connect with the world around them. Younger kids could go out in their school and just simply observe the bugs, the animals around, the birds, and they could even act like these animals in order to form an empathy toward them. Kids in the younger grades, such as first and second grade, could also take their learning into the garden, and they could have opportunities to explore plants, trees, and different things that allow them to connect with the plants around them. One idea is teachers could have kids create their own garden and then tend to the garden and establish a love for caring for something that they're trying to grow.
And for students that are older, then we can start implementing more responsibility in the garden, for example. So students are responsible for the compost, they're responsible for transplanting the plants and saving the seedlings for the next year. They can cook with the food and distribute the food around campus. And we can also use the garden to implement science lessons, for example, on an ecosystem and using the different pollinators to talk about the pollinator life cycle and the importance of that to the garden. So the third prompt we're going to talk about includes who may support this transition, and our school's service learning coordinator would be an obvious choice for who can support us by implementing these stages of environmental readiness. And so he, along with the middle school and elementary school service learning coordinators, would be ideal helpers to support this idea.
So, how can you create a compelling reason to cause this change? We would start by noting that our school is centered around sustainability, and it's some of the main objectives for our school for the past years and the coming years. So we would want to implement this change by creating service learning opportunities that are as effective as possible and really relate to the local community and environment. So our final thoughts on biophilia and ecophobia are, in order for kids to care about the environment, we need to be mindful about designing experiences for students to have the opportunity to fall in love with nature. If kids are introduced prematurely to overwhelming problems, it can cause paralysis and an inability to act.
By keeping the stages of environmental readiness at the center of our sustainability lessons, students will develop age-appropriate relations with their local environment and naturally begin to work to save the spaces that they love. Thank you.
Thank you.